If you are a fan of slashers from like the 80s or 90s, the book I'm going to talk about today is one you're going to want to read. And it's called I Was a Teenage Slasher by Stephen Graham Jones. I almost want to say this is like a slasher think piece. Is that weird to say? The rules and how it all works when you're a slasher, or like at least if you're a slasher in the movies, like any of the big famous ones, like Halloween, Friday the 13th, Scream, just movies in that vein where it's overly ridiculous. Some of the stuff that happens and like the certain tropes that the characters seem to follow and whatnot with the final girl or with someone's boobs are always out and all that stuff because that's how it works in slasher movies. There's gotta be boobs. Anyways, so I hadn't read a Stephen Graham Jones book in a while, and this one was at the library, so I picked it up. I was not disappointed. I enjoyed it overall as a whole. The writing was addictive. I liked the whole premise, and like I said, it's kind of like a weird think piece of like the mind of a slasher. And how the main character becomes a slasher is quite interesting. That I'm going to probably leave to, if you read the book, you'll find out how that happened. But, it follows these two main characters, Tolly Driver and Amber Dennison. I think they're in their senior year of high school. They wind up at this party where something happens that a bunch of the people attending the party end up being murdered, slasher style. What kind of sets this off, and I guess if you don't want even like tiny spoilers, I would say to probably skip ahead. I'll put a thing down below for what timestamps to skip ahead to. So someone comes back from the dead, and this sets off a whole thing and somehow triggers the summer in La Mesa, Texas into a slasher summer that La Mesa, Texas will never forget. And it happened in 1989. There was a whole TV movie even made about it. But what I thought was really interesting about it was the whole like into the mind of the slasher, just the traits that they took on and what they did. Like they'd be normal half the time. And then all of a sudden when they went into slasher mode, like one of the people who possibly wronged them was nearby, they'd go all colorblind, which made visibility better at night and stuff, so they could pick out people. Like if you're running through a cornfield, they could just see you better or whatever. And I always found it interesting that that slasher person kind of never wanted to hurt any animals, though. So I do appreciate that in this book. I do appreciate the slasher not killing the animals, just the people that wronged them. So it was an interesting take on it, and it's not what I expected going in. I'm not really sure what I expected to happen when I got into it. I guess my brain went to, when I read the synopsis, my brain just flipped over to like the movie Natural Born Killers. I thought it was going to have that kind of vibe, and then it did not, but kind of like the whole slasher part, yes, but the way they got to that point, no, not at all. So, highly enjoyable. I liked the characters. I liked that it had a weird twist and how we got to the slasher part and the whole think piece about it, and just, delving into it a little more. And there is like a twist at the end, and just the whole dynamic between the final girl and the slasher and the rules for how all that works. And yeah, if you like Stephen Graham Jones, you'll probably like this book. It's fun, it's campy, it's not quite what I expected, so I like that. I like that it took me a little bit by surprise, and I like that you got to see more in the mind of the slasher. Usually it's just like people running away, or you see from the perspective of the final girl or the person who defeats like the bad dude, and it instead had you inside the mind of said slasher. So I thought that was pretty cool. If you like horror, if you like slashers, if you like Stephen Graham Jones, this book will probably be for you. If you don't like any of that stuff, well then don't read this book. It's probably not for you then. And if you like books that are the slasher genre, the next video coming up will be about another book that is in the slasher genre. So stick around, check it out. And if you enjoyed hanging out today, hit that subscribe button, come back, see me again, and we'll talk about more bookish things and weird stuff.